What up? Boom! Guess where we are? Back in Los Angeles. Hello, spaceship. I might have to fight on without them. You remember the Red Dawn? Yeah. Wait, what are we talking about here? How are we doing? Right on. Let's see what happens next. Turn off phone attack. You crazy? Wait, hold on. This is some good stuff. Yep. Hey there, I'm Gotti Schwartz, and tonight we start with a hot one. 80 million people across the South right now under heat alerts. You can see just how hot it's getting in some of the hardest hit cities. Got it. 108 in Oklahoma City,
Lisa,
98.
2 seconds here.
Lisa, 97 out in Houston. It's expected to get even hotter this weekend, and then 97 in Miami.
Lisa,
and speaking of Miami, it reached 100 degrees yesterday. The only other time
is saying that
happened is back in 1942. And in some of these places, it feels a lot warmer, with heat indexes reaching up to 115 degrees.
That's what he's hearing.
Meanwhile, a flood risk is still an issue for people out in the mid-Atlantic. At least 19 million people are under a flood watch after heavy storms slammed that region. West Virginia, they are in a state of emergency now as neighborhoods are being flooded out. We've got Bill Cairns watching that for us. Let's start with Priscilla Thompson, who is feeling the heat out there in Houston, Texas. Priscilla, I'm so sorry you're outside right now. What's it feeling like?
Sorry, guys, if you guys are confused about what's going on, that's a pre-tape. Blankstein and Patterson think it's more of a procedural thing than it's too early to tell whether it's significant or whether it's an assist. Yeah, that's a good question.
Palmer, please get inside. Thank you so much.
I think it's likely that something like that is probably going to happen down the road.
Let's bring in our meteorologist, Bill Cairns, for what's next in the forecast.
Now, but
Bill?
whatever we can
this
get
is
out.
the heat wave that doesn't want to exit. So
we have somebody live.
Yep.
I think we should at least have it in headlines or have it like the headline.
Hey there, I'm Gotti Schwartz, and tonight we start with a
right.
Also, where's my keyboard and mouse? No keyboard and mouse. Okay.
Sorry, chat. What were you guys talking about? Hard to hear over yourself. Yes, those are pre-tapes that are rolling. So you guys got a sneak peek at what's going to happen at the top of the show. But we had to pre-tape because Priscilla Thompson is dying in the heat. Poor Priscilla was having to stand outside in like craziest of hot temperatures. So we took it easy on them. Am I going to talk about the new UFO files? We talked about the latest batch. Was there a 6th tranche? I think it was the 5th tranche. We talked about that. Are you talking about the stuff that may or may not have happened at White Sands? Look, I'm looking into it. I have questions, and I want proof, obviously, like hard evidence, especially if there was a report generated. I don't just willy-nilly jump into all this UFO stuff because it may or may not be the most important story of all time. So, doing my due diligence, we could talk about it in the stream, but when you see it on the show, you know it has reached a level of vetting that I'm comfortable with. Let's see. Dun-dun-dun-dun. How am I doing? They were joking. Y'all were gone. Wolverines. SML. Hello. Grigorous. Hello. Stacy. Phone attack. Jones. All I want to know is what's going on. Jones, I don't know if you're still around, but guess what? We've got that coming up for you in a big way. In fact, we're going to give it to you for 1 hour. All of the news you need to know throughout the day. And you've stumbled upon the behind the scenes of the stream, and it's a lot of fun. Icons Only 99? Hello. Oh, yeah, we are the National Broadcasting Company. NBC. Yeah, I forgot that's what we stand for. New York is so neat, though. Spaceship, thanks for sharing. Big G, You're a big G, my guy. James in Tucson. Hello, James. Great to see you here. Ikesbia? What are you actually doing? So far, you've done nothing but spout empty talk. Let me tell you something, Ikesbia. First of all, we're establishing a rapport here, you and I. You and I are connected. And we have prepared a wonderful show for you. And right now, at 30 Rock, let me show you. These people up there are making sure everything is in perfect order, and we over here are making sure the studio and everything is dialed in, and it takes a while, and it is a big team effort. It's like 30 people working on this stuff. But our show doesn't start for 1 minute, and at 5 o'clock, if you're next to a TV, not just this like social media stuff, not just a computer, but if you're by a TV and you turn on NBC News Now, the network, you will see in 59 seconds, our show pop up, and it's gonna look like a normal show. And then you're gonna be like, oh, wait, whoa, this is like an actual network, legit mainstream show. Crazy that they were talking to us like a streamer, because it does look like they actually have a lot going on. We've got time for you. We have time to chat with you because you're important and we love you. So that's what's happening here. Let's see. Oh, spaceship. Thanks, man. Also, did we find the keyboard and the mouse?
Keyboard? Oh, yeah. Let me go check. Staying at the desk.
Staying at the desk. We got 20 seconds for showtime. 105 degrees. Oof, yikes. James, thanks, man. Hello from Houston. Oh, man, we're going to Houston first. You guys are like just baking out there. So here we go. And there's Lisa, our fearless leader, with 8 seconds to go. This is when we lock in, everybody. All right, have a good show, have a good show, have a good show. Have a good show, Lisa. Hey there, I'm Gotti Schwartz, and tonight we start with a hot one. 80 million people across the South right now under heat alerts. You can see just how hot it's getting in some of the hardest hit cities. 108 in Oklahoma City, 98 in Charleston, South Carolina, 97 out in Houston. It's expected to get even hotter this weekend, and then 97 in Miami. And speaking of Miami, it reached 100 degrees yesterday. The only other time that's happened is back in 1942. And in some of these places, it feels a lot warmer, with heat indexes reaching up to 115 degrees. Meanwhile, a flood risk is still an issue for people out in the mid-Atlantic. At least 19 million people are under a flood watch after heavy storms slammed that region. West Virginia, they are in a state of emergency now as neighborhoods are being flooded out. We've got Bill Cairns watching that for us. Let's start with Priscilla Thompson, who is feeling the heat out there in Houston, Texas. Priscilla, I'm so sorry you're outside right now. What's it feeling like?
Gotti, I've been out here for a few minutes and already the sweat is dripping. I am feeling the burn. We're looking at about 95 degrees out here right now. And this is the time of day when you have kids coming home from school, after school activities getting underway. And so schools are grappling with this heat. We saw the football team out in Katy, just about 30 minutes outside of Houston, getting their workouts in before the sun even came up to avoid this heat. And I spoke with the health director there about how sometimes people can become complacent and just think it's August, it's hot, but that this is not that kind of heat. It is extreme heat, and it's important to pay attention. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Our schools do create rhythms and schedules that cause habits that you then you ignore that there's this heat happening outside. And so for us to help our community schedule activities in such a way that help them to still continue with those rhythms. Example here is a team practicing in the morning rather than the afternoon to avoid the high heat.
And Texas has actually put in new rules for student athletes under the measures of when a practice can be canceled, looking at not just heat and humidity, but also things like that direct sunlight, the cloud cover, wind. And in fact, there was actually a school in Decatur, Georgia, that had to cancel classes, go virtual, because their HVAC system just couldn't handle this overwhelming heat. So a lot of issues as folks are trying to grapple with these days and days of heat. Gotti?
Couldn't imagine with no air conditioning. Meanwhile, Miami, they hit 100 degrees yesterday. Like, anytime I'm in Miami, it always feels so hot. Why is it so rare for Miami to actually reach triple digits?
Yeah, it always feels so hot there. You would think it's the triple digits all the time, but in fact, it is the humidity that's normally in the air there that keeps that temperature down, even though it can feel very hot. But what we saw yesterday is really dry air, drier conditions than normal, and so it allowed for that temperature to creep up into the triple digits.
Yeah, some places could see heat indexes between 105 and 115, which again, like that is not anything you want to experience. What does that kind of heat mean for somebody that has to spend time outside?
Yeah, this is what I was talking to the Houston Fire Department about earlier today, because they are fielding tons of these heat emergency calls, more than 150 already so far this month. And a lot of it is those folks who are outside all day, construction workers, people who are unhoused. And so the reminder there is really to make sure that you're hydrating. A lot of what they see is dehydration, and also to minimize that time outdoors. That is something that we're also seeing in the schools. And I did get specific advice for students. A lot of the older students like to wear the hoodies to school and look cool. You do not want to do that in this heat. And if you can, parents, try to send your kids to school with a refillable water bottle so they can just have reminders throughout the day to hydrate. Gotti?
Yeah, there you go. Drink a lot of water and no hoodies, obviously, in the 100-degree temperatures. Priscilla Thompson, we owe you a very, very frosty, I don't know, Arnold Palmer. Please get inside. Thank you so much.
I'll take that.
And let's bring in our meteorologist, Bill Cairns, for what's next in the forecast. Bill?
Gandhi, this is the heat wave that doesn't want to exit. Summer wants to stick around, especially for the southern half of the country. Dry heat from Dallas all the way back through the southwest, and just hot and humid when we get to the south, and especially the southeast coast, all areas all the way down into Florida. And we're now roughly about a quarter of our U.S. population is under heat advisories or heat warnings, and those warnings do include Vegas, Phoenix, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Memphis, and Miami. Where once again, temperatures are near all-time record highs. So as we go through tomorrow, Miami gets a little bit of a break with the temperature, not quite as hot, but the humidity goes up, and that's why the heat index is going to feel about 109. That's one of the highest on the boards. Not great in areas of coastal Carolinas either. Memphis is pretty good. Dallas, it's more of a dry heat for you. In Dallas, I was looking at your extended forecast. You're looking at hundreds right through the end of August, maybe even through the beginning of September. So unfortunately, you have to get used to this. Steam bath continues through Friday, and as advertised, right through into the weekend and into next week. Look at Dallas, 106, 3 days in a row. Not much break for anywhere here in the south. We do have some other weather stories that we're going to deal with as we go throughout the next 24 hours. The rain is returning to the hard-hit flooded areas like in Indianapolis. All these thunderstorms so far have been just to the north of Indianapolis, but we do think that we have a chance for some isolated flash flooding. We already have a couple flash flood warnings out there, but 19 million people are in this from central Illinois all the way through central Ohio. And then tomorrow at this time, we'll be watching heavy rain moving through Philadelphia, possibly even New York City. So those areas are under flood watches. Also, the total rainfall forecast, someone's going to get probably 1 to 3 inches here along that I-70 corridor from Indianapolis towards Columbus. Heavier rain. This will be Thursday afternoon and again on Friday. And finally, Gotti, we got to talk a little bit about what's going to happen next for Hawaii. This was the path of Lala, still a big major hurricane, but now we have this other area of disturbed weather that is going to be heading possibly near the big island of Hawaii. This would possibly be a tropical system, too. Right now, the Hurricane Center says a 90% chance it becomes a tropical depression. Our computer models are taking it on this path just south of the Big Island. Notice a couple of them are too close for comfort. Obviously, the recovery is still ongoing. And the worst of it all, Gotti, our European computer model, which is usually pretty reliable, is further to the north than any of the other ones, with almost a direct hit on the Big Island come Sunday. This is a story to watch in the days ahead.
Bill Cairns, thank you. Meanwhile, a lot happening at the White House, including big news with North Korea. This is coming up sometime this year, a meeting between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Trump announced that surprise upcoming get-together earlier today. No details on when or how, but he did tell the country how many nuclear weapons North Korea now has. Listen to this.
The fact that I get along with him, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. He has 57 very powerful nuclear weapons. Should have never allowed it to happen.
Well, let's get out to NBC News. Chief White House correspondent Garrett Hake in Washington. Garrett, so North Korea, apparently they've got over 50 nukes now. I'm trying to imagine this announcement during the Biden administration or the first Trump administration or the Obama administration, and it is scrambling my mind to think of what that would have been like. Like, what is our current diplomatic status with North Korea?
Well, we, as the United States, don't have diplomatic relationships with North Korea. We are technically still at war with North Korea, or at least South Korea is, and we're still involved. There is no relationship there between the countries, but there is a relationship between the two leaders, and that's what President Trump is trying to reimagine here today. He told reporters first yesterday that he was sort of somehow still in contact with Kim today. He wouldn't say whether that was letters or what exactly it meant, but he thinks this engagement is good even for engagement's sake. The North Koreans have continued to develop missiles. They've continued to build more nuclear weapons. They have at least the 57 that the president said they had today. What he hopes to get from this is not at all clear to me, and I tried to ask him directly earlier today with mixed results. Listen.
Is your goal in trying to re-engage with Chairman Kim still denuclearization? And what makes you think you could be successful now when you weren't?
Well, I don't want to talk about that, but I do have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un. As you know, you've seen. He didn't like Biden. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like anybody, but he likes me, and I just got along with him very good.
Gotti, that's not a yes. I tried to follow up on this denuclearization question. I think that in sum, the president's answer told me that this isn't about a specific goal. It's about keeping the conversation going with Kim, maybe as a way of keeping the peace, or maybe just because that's the way the president likes to conduct diplomacy, leader to leader, and Kim is someone who feels the same way.
Yeah, look, like there is an argument to be made that dialogue is very important when you're dealing with nation states that have nuclear weapons. But like all of this comes on the backdrop of the concern over Iran's nuclear program, the fact that the United States is at war with Iran right now. Like, how do we and the rest of the world watching this reconcile what's happening in Iran with what we are now learning about the relationship that the president has with North Korea?
Well, I think there are a couple of ways to look at this. I think the White House would say North Korea is the reason why we are doing what we're doing now with Iran. And by that, I mean trying to take out any nuclear program before it gets off its feet and before they develop the kind of missiles that could deliver a nuclear weapon all over the rest of the world. Because once that happens, there's not much you can do about it. Look at North Korea. North Korea has nuclear weapons. They have a very advanced ballistic missile program. And that's why you would never see the same kind of military action now against North Korea that you could have against Iran. That window has long since closed. That's the way the White House would look at it. But I also think there's this personal element here with President Trump. As I said earlier, that he likes this kind of leader-to-leader diplomacy. He likes knowing that he can talk to an individual. The Iranians have deprived him of that. Their system is different. They're not interested in that. He doesn't have someone he can sit down at a table and negotiate with. North Korea will provide him that person, even if there's no there. And that suits his interest personally.
Yeah, this is a whole new era of diplomacy. And yet, you got to think of the past. You got to think of history. I imagine South Korea is not at all happy with any of this, right?
Well, not exactly. I mean, there are those within South Korea's political system that would like to see warmer relations with the North. They would like to see more conversation, maybe some way to bring about a peace through talking. But history, decades of it now, has been built strategically in that region on this very strong South Korean-United States military alliance. There are multiple annual defense exercises that take place between our two militaries, and there are tens of thousands of American military officials and their families who live in and around Seoul defending South Korea. The president, as part of all of this, has dramatically cut back on this current round of exercises that's happening with the South Koreans. And he explained it like this.
I was not happy when South Korea said, no, they're not interested in helping us with the Hormuz Strait, and yet they get 60% of their oil from the Hormuz Strait. I said, would you like to help us? He said, no, thank you. I said, that's nice, please, thank you. He made us a lot of money. I didn't like that. So I felt that to do we were doing a massive war exercise. I thought that was very insulting to somebody that, frankly, has been during my term at least, very well behaved.
So, Gotti, I think, well, there's an argument for having better relationships with North Korea, even on the South Korean side. That kind of language is not going to make the president any friends in one of the world's biggest, most important economies, a major trading partner, and a country with whom we are still very closely militarily entangled.
Yeah, it's so fascinating what's going on. I really appreciate the way you put it all into perspective. NBC's Garrett Hake at the White House. Garrett, thank you. And turning now to the manhunt for the wife of a police officer in Massachusetts who is wanted for questioning in connection with his death. Investigators say she is considered armed and dangerous. And today, police have released Ring camera video showing 58-year-old Karen Solomon Tuesday near the couple's home where her husband, Worcester police officer Kurt Solomon, was found dead. Let's bring in Valerie Castro, who's been following this investigation. Valerie, what's the latest on the manhunt here? And what else are police saying about this Ring camera video?
Well, Gotti, tonight police say they are still actively searching for Karen Solomon, but as far as that Ring camera video that they released, they really didn't give any additional information or context about that video, exactly where it was recorded. But if you notice in the bottom right-hand corner, there is a timestamp of 5:41 a.m., and that's about roughly 10 minutes after the first call to 911 yesterday morning. So in that video, you see Karen Solomon walking around. It appears as though she has on some pajamas and a T-shirt, and that is what police described her as last seen wearing before this all happened. So again, that Ring video camera really not giving us too much information, but police, of course, releasing that today as they continue to search for her. Gotti.
And do we know what may have happened before the death, or what the cause of death might be here?
Police say that is all still under investigation, but what we will tell you is that we have listened to radio traffic, the dispatch transmissions that sent first responders to that scene when those 911 calls were made. And in those calls, first responders describe what they say is a bloody scene. They say there was a lot of blood in the bathroom, on the inside of the home. And in one portion of those calls, and I want to quote here, it says, "We have blood on the back door and he's covered completely in blood. Looks like a laceration to the neck." Police at this point have not described or confirmed how Kurt Solomon died or what the circumstances were surrounding his death. So we can't confirm that information. But again, that is what first responders described when they arrived at the scene.
Yeah, enough for the police to say that she may be considered armed and dangerous here. Lacerations would suggest knives. Again, we don't know exactly what happened inside of that home, but should the community be concerned here?
Well, police initially did put out a reverse 911 call to residents living within a 2.5-mile radius of the scene, warning them that she is presumed to be armed and dangerous and telling them that if anyone does see her, to not approach her, but to call police. They have been actively searching the area. We know they've been searching bodies of water by boat. They had helicopters up yesterday searching the area. They've had canines out. So again, the search continues. But again, police warning residents to not approach Karen Solomon if they see her, but to simply call police. Gotti?
Valerie Castro, thank you. Meanwhile, testimony continues in the trial of a mom accused of murdering her 3 kids. Lawyers for Lindsay Clancy say the killings happened while Clancy was in the grip of postpartum psychosis and should not be held criminally responsible. It's something that a psychologist who treated Clancy after the killings testified he agrees with. Listen.
My opinion is that she did have indeed a mental disease or a defect. That's a legal construct, not a DSM-5 one, but she had bipolar disorder with postpartum psychoses. In addition, she was unable to conform her behaviors to the rule of law, and she had no appreciation for the wrongfulness of her act.
Meanwhile, prosecutors read out medical records indicating that Clancy didn't show any signs of distress on the days of her kids' birthdays after the killings. You can see her shaking her head at that. NBC's Stephen Romo has more on what else went down in court today.
Yeah, Gotti, the defense continued making their case today. Forensic psychologist Dr. Paul Zeisel continued his testimony. He was on the stand for much of the day. He's the one who visited Lindsay in the hospital just after the killings to evaluate her mental health for the defense. He testified that Lindsay was in a psychotic state at the time of the killings and that she could not tell right from wrong, according to his analysis. He also spoke about the medications that she was on and saying how they can affect bipolar disorder, which he believes she has. She had not been diagnosed with that previously. Well, prosecutors, they were quick to push back, saying that Dr. Zeisel is a psychologist, not a psychiatrist or a medical doctor who can prescribe medication. So they were questioning his credentials to talk about what those medications can actually do. And they also pushed back a bit on the idea that Lindsay heard this voice. So Dr. Zeisel testified about hearing Lindsay describe a man's voice telling her to kill her children and then to take her own life. Prosecutors saying that Lindsay saw several mental health professionals, but it was only Dr. Zeisel who saw her in the hospital after the killings who heard her talk about this voice, something else the prosecutors were asking about. And also, Gotti, an odd sign of the times maybe in court today, a woman who went viral on TikTok, a social worker who used to work in a hospital where Lindsay was admitted. She went before the judge so he could evaluate her as a potential witness in this case. Ultimately, the judge decided her testimony was not needed. But it is fascinating that this woman, her name was Emily Thorndike, is a social worker, went from making a viral video all the way to the courtroom for this very high-profile case. Just maybe a sign of the times that this social media can sort of seep into the court system the way it did in this case. That's something that a lot of people online in particular were paying attention to. Much more expert testimony to come as this case continues tomorrow. Gotti.
Well, Stephen Romo, thank you so much. And turning now to a helicopter crash in Kenya that killed all 7 people on board, including 5 Americans. The tourists were traveling with the luxury travel company And Beyond, and they were flying to a sacred mountain out in Kenya. Sadly, NBC News can confirm that Jose Suarez, the president and general manager of several Florida Telemundo stations, was one of the passengers. And let's get to NBC's George Solis for more details. George, what do we know about what went wrong here?
Gotti, it's a tragedy, and it's one that hits close to home here at NBC News. The investigation is ongoing, and what we've seen from some of the images there provided by the Kenya Red Cross, you can just get a sense of what investigators are going to be up against. This is a very mountainous terrain. Mind you, this is an area, though, that is used quite a bit in terms of the air traffic by a lot of these companies that are running a lot of these charters to and from safaris. And it's a helicopter that aviation experts tells us that's pretty tried and true. So part of this investigation is going to be looking at a number of factors. Number one, of course, being the weather, the aircraft maintenance itself, checking in on the pilot and his record as well. But of course, when you look at just the scope of the damage there and the wreckage, obviously it's going to be a bit of a task for investigators to piece all of this together. But nevertheless, that investigation ongoing as we speak, and we know there's a number of assets and resources deployed to that region right now. And at this early hour, it's unclear if they're still there looking at this moment, but we can bet that once there is daybreak there, the investigation will continue, Gotti.
And George, it's such a dark day for many of us here at NBC Telemundo with the passing of Jose Suarez in this tragic crash. What can you tell us about Jose?
Jose is known as a mentor, person who was full of life, someone that was a guiding light to many at NBC News and Telemundo, working in a capacity that spanned a career that 2 decades. And I do want to note a little bit of the accolades that was put out today by our chairman, Cesar Conde, if I can, in a statement that he put out to the group saying that Jose was a deeply respected leader and beloved friend and colleague across NBCU local and the NBCU news group. Over the course of a 20-year-plus career with our company, led several stations in San Antonio, Sacramento, Fresno, and Salt Lake City. We know that he was the president and general manager of stations in Orlando, Tampa, and Fort Myers. The suddenness and circumstances of Jose's passing make this loss especially difficult to comprehend. Our hearts are with his loved ones and all of his colleagues and friends across NBC Universal who are grieving this terrible loss. Again, that includes so many of us here in Miami and really across South Florida, but so many other places as well, Gotti, as you can imagine. It's just an unfathomable loss.
Yeah, such a tragedy. And do we know who else was on board the helicopter when it went down?
Yeah, so the U.S. State Department confirming, unfortunately, 5 American souls died in this crash, and we are learning a little bit more about some of them, including Roger Duarte, a famous, well-known food entrepreneur here in Miami. His family putting out a statement tonight saying that this tragedy is just really incomprehensible and that the depth of their pain is really hard to measure at this point. We also know that a South Florida couple by the name of Henry Parra and Adam Lavate, who love to travel, their friends tell NBC News, were on board. And we also learned that Ecuadorian intelligence official Michele Sensei Contugi and his wife Stephanie were also on board the helicopter. We are waiting to learn more about the pilot as well, but obviously every one of these individuals has a story, has a family, and all of them tonight just going through the worst pain imaginable. But again, the cause of this crash, Gotti, still remains under investigation. Gotti?
And our hearts go out to all the families of the victims. George Solis, thank you. And tonight we've got some breaking news about the death of actress Hayden Panettiere. A source familiar with the case tells NBC News that the DEA has joined the investigation into her death, and it comes as authorities have still not released how she died. Earlier today, police were spotted at the family home of her on and off again boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, in South Carolina. Hickerson was at the scene at the time of her death and showed police a, quote, bag of medication that she reportedly had been taking. And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, a polling firm admitting that they made up a bunch of election polls as part of a social experiment and proved that they were successful as some candidates ran with the fake results. Yeah, the implications there. Plus, a potential breakthrough in treating skin cancer that we're learning about. It's a new vaccine that's showing promising results. Also, if you see a QR code like this, feel free. You can scan through it with your phone. You can chat with us live. Let us know your thoughts all hour long. That'll take you behind the scenes on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch. Come on through. Where'd you go? There we go. Hi. William, hello. Jorge, 1563. Hi. Mayday. Spaceship. I don't know. We'll have to check. How can I schedule a tour of the LA studio? I don't know if we do those. It's like security is so tight around the lot. We'll have to figure something out. Pedro, hello from San Pedro Sula. Great to see you. Two's clear. Why is Lisa on here every day on the live stream? Why? Because she's my best friend. That's why SML. And because she's our boss. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. My what? SML, yeah. Sometimes SML's in a bad mood.
Can you hide the snake a little more?
Because I know. SML, Lisa does not appreciate your questions. Or that question in particular. I thought SML, Lisa's saying.
Just a quick heads up, the Tupac information in headlines coming up is hot off the presses. If you want to take a look at that, make sure you're good with it.
Is it the one where, is it the last thing he said? I think I saw it.
Yes.
Okay, yep, I got that.
30.
Okay. I know, Monkey Beast. I know, right? All right, so we've got headlines coming up. And then we're getting to this fake poll, right? This fake poll story. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's pretty wild.
7.
Aw, Carla.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines we are watching tonight. 2 people are dead after a car struck several members of the Milligan University cycling team in Tennessee. Milligan says the students killed are sophomores Hayla Igledal and Braden Rogers. Several others were taken to the hospital. The driver is now in custody and facing charges. And today was day 3 of Tupac's murder trial, and we learned what his last words allegedly were. A retired Vegas police officer said he rode in the ambulance with Tupac on the way to the hospital, and when the officer said he asked Tupac what happened, the rapper told him, quote, "We'll take care of it." And a house explosion in Annapolis, Maryland killed one person and hurt another. That explosion left a large debris field and forced other homes to evacuate. The cause of the explosion is under investigation. And an update from the CDC says 431 salmonella cases have been linked to jalapenos. Data shows that jalapeno peppers from Sinaloa, Mexico, and distributed by Coast Citrus Distributors may have been contaminated with salmonella. Cases have spread across 32 states, though luckily no one has died so far from getting sick. And Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, looks like they're moving back to Britain with their kids. They're going to keep their home in Montecito, California, while establishing a private non-royal home base in Britain. It is the biggest change in their family life since stepping away from royal duties in 2020. And here is one of those stories that you might skip over, but if you really stop to think about the implications here, it becomes quite the sign of the times. In the world of politics, we all know about fake news, and we all know about AI and people betting on prediction markets and how weird everything is getting. But what about a company completely making up polls and then straight up admitting to making up the polls and then calling it a social experiment? Well, tonight, one company called Median Strategies says, yeah, they just made their polls up out of thin air. They called it an experiment to test how fast misinformation can spread. But here's the thing. They're saying that now these polls were released. They're telling us what happened, but they happened during active campaigns and it gained enough traction at the time that even LA Mayor Karen Bass shared one of them online, showing her with this huge lead over her rival in the runoff race that she's currently competing in. So what is the line between social experiment, social responsibility? Well, joining us now is Ruth Igielnik, polling editor at the New York Times. Ruth, thank you so much for being with us. Polls are such a cornerstone of American politics, but have we ever seen something like this before? Like, where does this fit in with the current landscape of polls?
Yeah, I mean, this is quite a surprise. This has happened a few times before, but obviously it's very rare and it's very shocking. You know, we rely on polls to help understand the American public. So when something like this happens, it really upends our feelings and our understanding about what we know about an election.
Another poll that they shared, it was one that showed that Francisca Hong was leading in her Wisconsin primary by 20 points. She ended up losing that race last week. Do you think that that poll might have affected actual voter turnout? Because online, people are saying, look, people might have seen that and said, hey, we don't have to show up because it looks like she's running away with it.
You know, there's no reason to believe that that poll specifically affected turnout, largely because it was similar to all of the other polls in the race. Obviously, there's always been a concern that polls could affect turnout. They could either depress turnout because people feel like their candidate is ahead, or they could, you know, increase turnout if people feel like they need to show up. But I really don't think that that was at play here, largely because the poll was pretty similar to what all the other polls were showing in the race.
What is this going to do to trust in polling? Like, trust in politics, trust in the electoral process is already at like all-time lows. How do you see things being affected by this going forward?
Yeah, I think that's the big question. You know, I think trust in polling is already pretty low, and this certainly gives us a hit to that trust. But I think the important thing to remember is that what this teaches us is that we need to pay attention to high-quality polling. When we think about what makes a high-quality poll, we think about transparency, a poll telling us everything about how that poll was conducted. This poll did not tell us how their poll was conducted, and that's a big red flag. And so I think, you know, when we think about trust in polling going forward, this teaches us to be good consumers of polls, to pay attention to high-quality polls that tell us how they were conducted. I think that can really help trust in polls, and, you know, we just have to keep trying to get it right.
Hopefully we can do that sometime soon. Ruth Igielnik with the New York Times. Really appreciate all your reporting. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And in some good news, did we just make a huge step towards curing cancer? Well, there might have been a breakthrough when it comes to skin cancer, and this mRNA vaccine from both Moderna and Merck that could prevent melanoma from coming back in patients. Ann Thompson has more on this potential game changer.
a potentially pivotal moment in the fight against high-risk melanoma. A new mRNA vaccine combined with the immunotherapy drug Keytruda showing clinically meaningful improvements, keeping the cancer from coming back in a large-scale trial. Melanoma is a serious form of skin cancer that kills more than 8,000 people a year. Dr. Michael Postow at Memorial Sloan Kettering worked on the trial.
Other types of cancer vaccines in general have been approved, but this is the first personalized cancer vaccine that's shown a benefit in a phase 3 study so far.
Gary Keblish got the vaccine in 2019 after his difficult diagnosis.
Not very good. 75% chance, if I remember correctly, of the melanoma returning within a 5-year period of time.
Now with his wife and daughter, the public school teacher says he is cancer-free.
Happy and healthy.
Here's how it works. First, doctors surgically remove the melanoma tumor. The patient starts on Keytruda while the tumor and patient's blood are analyzed for their unique mutations to make a vaccine. The process takes about 6 weeks. Moderna and Merck, developers of the experimental treatment, saw their stock prices jump on the news. More specifics on the trial outcomes are expected later this year.
Interesting. Ann Thompson, thanks so much. And coming up, ICE raids are leaving immigrant families torn about sending their kids to school with fears that they could possibly be taken into custody. 3 families are going to share their stories coming up next.
3 minutes. Sir.
Okay, 3 minutes. 3 minutes. All right, what's going on in the chat? Let's see. Hey, Dave, B is full of... What's going on here? Somehow I need to live. Entertained. Why would I go anywhere else? Oh, thanks, B. Watch those little. Oh, never mind. Looks like you are not appreciating the show, B. Sorry, we are not living up to your expectations. I am wondering, what news shows do you think are doing it right? I would love to know. Like, serious question, because I think that I probably agree with you on a lot of things. We're on a quest to, I don't know, change the way we understand the news. And that's what you've stumbled upon here. But yeah, I always love to hear constructive, cordial criticism. So try to be nice. Let's see, mRNA is wild, so many promising applications. Yes, and also, like, you know how it is. Anytime somebody starts talking about mRNA, you're like, can you send me the scientific study here? Because we're at a low point in trust on everything, from medicine to journalism to politics to education to, I don't know, there's nothing that hasn't been... You're really shaken up by trust. Let's see. I think he's a Ducey fan.
Okay.
Oh, Ducey has his moments. I mean, like, look. All of us journalists, even though we work at different places, you should see when we all see each other in real life. It's a weird, confusing time in this world. And we're just trying to make it less confusing. Food safety. Oh, Belle, hello. How's it going? What else? What have I said that's empirically false? Man, hold on. Let me try to figure out. I got to figure out a way to go back and read all of one person's comments. Lost my mom. Oh, I'm so sorry. What? Yeah. 30. Immunotherapy is so amazing. Yeah, I'm praying that we can make some major breakthroughs here, not just in melanoma, but across the board. All right. We got a couple of interesting stories. We've got one that we've got the fear of deportations coming up. And then there's another one that has to do with education just a bit, so stay tuned. Here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Back to school is upon us, but this year there's this looming shadow of ICE officers for many families. Families with mixed immigration status say that they are facing a tough decision, risking deportation by sending their kids to school or keeping their kids at home. Telemundo's Lourdes Huerto spoke with 3 families in Florida who shared their story. Here it is.
Not every student made it back to school this year.
Estaban diciendo que lo van a sacar los niños en la escuela, que van a llevar donde viven sus padres y nos van a deportar también y nos van a quitar nuestros hijos que son nacidos de aquí. Y ese es el miedo. ¿Y quién va a cuidar nuestros hijos?
The surge in ICE arrests led some immigrant families to reassess the risk of enrolling their children, many of whom are American citizens.
¿El año pasado tus hijos fueron a la escuela?
Sí, el año pasado, pero por miedo. Por el momento ya no quiero ir a mandar mis 3 hijos. Prefiero quedar ellos en la casa.
Noticias Telemundo spoke to 3 indigenous Guatemalan families in Florida who requested we don't show their faces for fear of being detained and deported.
No la fui a matricular por el miedo que tengo por mis hijas. Y si ya no nos vamos a mandar, ya después vienen a buscar a nosotras otra vez. ¿Por qué no estamos mandando los niños?
She says she cannot afford a computer for online classes, putting her 12-year-old daughter's education on hold.
¿Sientes que es un riesgo ir a la escuela?
Tal vez.
¿Y tú quisieras tomar ese riesgo o crees que es mejor quedarte segura?
Mejor ir a la escuela para aprender algo.
ICE says it does not target schools during general enforcement operations.
This is school property!
However, at least 17 instances of ICE activity on school grounds have been reported since January 2025, according to K-12 Dive. Research suggests that fear of immigration enforcement impacts school attendance. A 2025 study of a California school district found a 22% increase in student absences after ICE raids.
And those increases were smaller among older kids and much larger at earlier grades and preschool.
Dee says the pattern is consistent with concerns around family separation.
Ya no sabe uno ni qué hacer, si mandarlos o no mandarlos. Pero y si no los mandamos, arruinamos el futuro de ellos.
¿Prefieren tomar el riesgo?
Sí.
Porque es el bien para él, porque no solo pueden decir que no vaya, pero imagínense, va a perder grados y todo esto.
This couple says they will send their 11-year-old son to the bus stop alone, hoping to limit their own exposure.
Con temor cuando se vaya y cuando regrese todos los días, imagino.
A painful dilemma for parents with dire consequences for their kids.
Triste porque en verdad quiero tener un futuro, pues para comprarle una casa a mis papás.
Lourdes Hurtado, NBC News.
Lourdes, thank you for that report. And turning now to Cuba, where the economic crisis on the island is getting worse by the day, decimating one of the country's most important industries there, tourism. NBC's Ed Augustine reports from Havana.
Just 10 years ago, tourism in Cuba was breaking records. Millions of tourists visited the island, many of them Americans. But now, Havana hotspots that were jam-packed before are empty. ¿Cómo está el turismo?
Malo, mira, no hay turismo.
Sí.
¿Qué turismo va a venir si en un país que no hay ni corriente, ni agua, ni gas, ni para cocinar? ¿Qué turismo va a venir?
The Trump administration's effective oil blockade on the island is now into its 7th month, compounding long-standing problems with the island's struggling, state-controlled economy. Power is now on for only a couple of hours a day for most people. With no jet fuel, most international airlines are no longer flying to and from the island. And there's next to no gasoline for Cuba's classic cars.
En el día puedes dar una vuelta. Hay veces que no das ninguna.
In May, new US sanctions threatened hotel companies doing business with companies owned by the Cuban state. International hotel operators promptly pulled out, including Spanish giants Meliá and Iberostar. As a result, 25,000 hotel workers are now without a job, according to Cuban Prime Minister Manuel Marrero Cruz.
Hoy compré la menos mala que había en camino.
Private boutique hotel owners Julia and Silvio are among the hundreds of thousands of Cubans who rely on tourism.
Ahí no hay turismo, no existe el turismo, o sea, eso no existe. Desde hace mucho tiempo fue bajando y de manera vertiginosa hasta que hemos llegado a cero.
The couple say their business is just 20% of what it used to be. With no tourists, they now have to rent out their pool to locals. They have had to fire employees, and they're unsure how much longer they can hold on.
This is something that we have been creating for over 35 years. So it's my life on every corner. To give up, it is something that I don't want to think about.
Tourism in Cuba peaked in 2018, when the island welcomed close to 5 million tourists. By last year, that figure was down to just 1.8 million. In the first half of 2026, the island received just 700,000 tourists. That's less than half the number it received over the same period last year. 10 years ago, I was reporting here when the first US cruise ship in over half a century was allowed to dock in Havana, right here behind me. Then they came one after the other. But these days, none come, and this affects everyday Cubans. Yoandri used to work as a tour guide. He met his wife only when she was working for another tour operator. They are both now unemployed and have been for months.
The reality is that there's many people that are relying on tourism. I'm relying on tourism. My family is relying on tourism. So the common people, the common Cubans are the ones that are really affected by the whole situation.
Being without income and transportation is stressful. And then there's the power outages. Aye.
No! They suffer, you know.
They suffer.
It's heavy. I can't feed my family as well as I would like, as they need. I give them what I find, what I can.
Earlier this summer, the ruling Communist Party announced major policy changes, more space for the private sector, which it hopes will haul the island out of its grueling economic crisis. But as iconic locations around the island remain empty, and with Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying there will be no escape valves, the fate of those who rely on visitors looks bleak. Ed Augustin, NBC News, Havana.
Ed, thank you so much. And coming up, the latest from Meta's social media addiction trial as a former engineer takes his stand and accuses the tech giant of lying about concerns over child safety. More ahead. Stay tuned. All right.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, we got 2 minutes. Windows Walk. Okay, hold on. YouTube. B is online. I leave you all with this. Would Lester Holt read headlines over techno music? Oh, so B does not like how I talk with my hands. And B does not like the music of our show. But B, I have great news for you. Okay, listen to this. Sorry, I'll put my hands down. When we do Nightly, I did Nightly this weekend. I did Nightly, and I think I only moved my hands because I know viewers like you don't like hands being moved because it's distracting and you can't process on that. So I didn't move my hands during Nightly. I think I moved them like 2 or 3 times. Stop the gesticulation. But guess what? This is our show. This is my show. My brain doesn't work very well if I'm not moving my hands. So we're experimenting here. I don't know if it's going to work. But you should watch NBC Nightly News. It's the best broadcast. And also, I love PBS NewsHour. Okay, we're coming over here. What'd you say?
1 minute.
There was what? Pig pun, and you got to see this. Okay, got it. I forgot to tell you guys. Best part of the show coming up. Look, Angela Cinadella on set. Let's go. Let's go. All right. If you guys are not following Angela on TikTok, you need to. You will make money. She has like the best advice, legal advice. So that's coming up. Okay. What's our time?
15.
15 seconds. Okay.
A little forward. 15 now.
Then I'm walking around this way?
You'll have 30 seconds.
Okay.
7, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Today marks day 2 of that landmark trial against the maker of Instagram and Facebook. And the state's first witness was one of Meta's former employees, a former engineer testifying today, accusing the tech giant of putting profits ahead and engagement ahead of kids' safety. Now remember, it's 29 states that are suing Meta, accusing the company of designing its platforms to get kids hooked on social media and misleading the public about the risks. Meta is pushing back, saying the state's claims are unsubstantiated and it has heavily invested in protecting young users. Meanwhile, for parents who say they lost their children after being harmed by social media, it's not enough.
This wasn't an accident. My son did not take his life. My son was killed. It's a design choice.
Owl didn't die by accident. She died by design. Meta's own engineers built an algorithm that knew exactly what to show a struggling 16-year-old girl to keep her scrolling and what that content could do to her. They knew, and they did it anyway.
And NBC News legal analyst Angela Sinandela joins us here in the studio. Angela, great to see you. How significant is this testimony today from this former Meta worker?
Yeah, Gotti, look, this testimony is hugely significant for the states because it attempts to prove the hardest part of their theory, which is not the harmful part, it's not the addiction part, but it's the allegation that Meta knew about all of this and allegedly deceived the public about it. So this engineer, he actually worked on child safety. He designed surveys, and he alleges that he even emailed Mark Zuckerberg directly about some of the issues surrounding his own daughter on Instagram and that he was just ghosted. That's what he claims. Now, it's also important because we've also talked about how there are no parents, there's no children that are going to be witnesses in this trial. However, he himself almost did double duty. He talked about his experience as a parent. He talked about how harmful it was to his own daughter. So he's an insider alleging that Meta knew and that they also designed the safety features to fail. That's huge, Gotti.
Yeah, and if we do see Mark Zuckerberg taking the stand here, do you think that he's going to be asked about this specifically? Like, what could we see in a testimony like that?
I really do. So I think it's actually risky for Zuckerberg to be put on the stand for both sides. So for the states, it could be very positive because they're going to say Zuckerberg made these public statements claiming that he never puts profits above child safety at Meta. However, what the documents could possibly show are emails, or right, what's in his inbox, or the company culture, which is what this witness today testified about, that it's a culture that he placed user retention, allegedly, above child safety at all times. But where it could also be risky for them is that he's likely going to say, look at all of the affirmative things we did here at Meta to protect children. The fact that we did surveys, the fact that we did this research in and of itself can show that we cared. We only did it because we care. So that's possibly why it could hurt the plaintiffs as well.
Are the states going to have to prove the harms here as well? Or is it just about what Meta knew and what Meta did?
So it is important to distinguish that this is not a personal injury lawsuit. So that's what we saw happen in Los Angeles, where causation and harm are all of it, right? But here the harm is relevant, but it's a little bit of a backseat. And it's a backseat because this is just a consumer protection lawsuit where it's just claiming that Meta knew something bad was happening and they lied about it. So almost just the deception in itself is enough, but the harms will matter with regards to what the penalties are. So the judge is not going to institute massive penalties and a whole product redesign of Meta's Instagram and of these beauty filters and autoplay if she doesn't believe there was actually that much harm that happened. So backdoor, it really matters. But in terms of the pure legal strategy, it's not at the forefront, Gotti.
This is one of those cases that could have such wide-ranging implications. We'll continue to monitor it. Angela Sinandela, thank you so very much. And still to come, teachers growing concerned after AI seeps into a place they turn to for quality teaching supplies, dishing out things like alphabet worksheets that are missing letters. We're going to explain that. But first, you got to see this. You know when people say when pigs fly? Well, what about when pigs run? Look at that little guy.
Hey, there's a pig
Over
in West Hollywood. We gotta catch the pig. Hey, come back, pig!
Running through West Hollywood, wee, all the way home. He had neighbors squealing as he was zooming down the street, hogging the spotlight. But where was he headed? We think he was headed all the way home. That little guy can move. We'll be right back.
Clear for 3 minutes.
All right, you are the best. Thank you so very much. And you're here hopefully throughout the week? Okay, cool. Yeah, great meeting you. She is the GOAT. You are lucky to have such a genius in your family. All right, see you guys. Nice you too. Altavina. Okay, got it. Thank you so much. Automatically making decisions for user, that's control. Interesting. Don't parents play a role in supervising their kids? Belle, that's a really good point, and I think we're going to hear Meta making that argument in court. Thomas, any crazy person? Yeah, but, you know, I get it. Like, it's interesting because some people watch the news the way it normally is, like this, and that's the way it was, and have trouble paying attention to it, like me. And I work in the news. And then some people are completely opposite. Some people can really focus in when, you know, you've got verbal and nonverbal communication happening all at the same time. The good thing is we live in a day and age where there's news for everybody, all different flavors. Let's see. Yeah, one of these days we can do a special report behind the scenes. Great idea. What else? Campbell Corn, you're a hands talker too? Amazing. Hi. Sorry, definitely contagious through this stream. Max, did you know I was doing nightly before Friday? Yes. Let's see. MS. Yeah, we'll see what that does to the midterms. Belle, thank you so very much. USDA, we should talk about that a little bit more. Okay, 1 minute. We still got a little bit of time. But I'll go stand in just over here. I wish I could see from here, but I can't. This one bugs me though, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this segment gets under my skin with what is happening. Everybody in my family, they're all teachers. We use this. Teacher to teacher. If you're in education, you know this, and this is gonna really hurt your feelings. Somebody's coming in here and taking a good thing and just ruining it for all the good people. So messed up, especially in such a noble profession. So, watch what happens here. 20 seconds. Also, this is a great resource if you have kids at home and you want to find some stuff. You just have to double check the work, but they have really, really great stuff. For teachers, by teachers. Okay, here we go. 7 seconds.
5, 4, 3, animation.
And in tonight's Future of Everything, as kids go back to school, we are taking a look at something that is extremely messed up when it comes to teaching. Okay, so here's the backstory. Teachers, first of all, teachers are not only underpaid. So many have to pay out of their pocket for their own classroom supplies to try to enrich kids' curriculum or to decorate their classroom. So about 20 years ago, some teachers came up with this fantastic idea. What if you could make kind of like this Etsy, right? For teaching supplies, where teachers could sell some of what they were already making for their classrooms to other teachers. It would be a win-win. Teachers shopping would save money while other teachers would make a little bit of extra cash. Well, thank you, technology, for bringing teachers together with this. This is Teachers Pay Teachers, until AI apparently entered the chat. This hallowed, sacred teaching ground is starting to see some changes. They're starting to see examples like this, if we have them. A, B, C, D, apple, bear, cat? Wait, what? What's going on, right? Then it gets just sloppy, and AI sloppy after that. It seems like people on TikTok are noticing some of these examples too. Take a look.
So this is Country Alphabet made by AI, and spoiler alert, AI is not going to take us over anytime soon. J is for Japan. All right, well, the AI is clearly thinking about World War II too much.
E for dolphin. E for dolphin for elephant.
This is the AI ethics visual alphabet that I asked ChatGPT to generate for me this morning. You know, the alphabet. A, B, E, F, G, H, G, L, P, M, Q, R, S, S.
Yikes. Let's bring in Lily Altavina. She recently wrote an investigative article looking into all of this. Lily, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, how did you realize that AI-generated material was becoming a problem on Teachers Pay Teachers? Was it some of these like TikToks or was it something that you noticed?
Yeah, I was scrolling through TPT one day. As an education reporter, I like looking through learning resources, and I noticed a lot of like the hallmarks on cover pages of these resources to look AI generated. So I went on a shopping spree on some of the more suspect ones. I found a coloring page of an alphabet without the letter F for kindergartners. I found a Black inventors resource about different Black inventors with just nonsensical wording and images. Like for the inventor of the potato chip, there was an image of a guy in a gas mask and a stoplight. Just a lot of things that didn't make sense. An asteroid hurtling at, in Martin Van Buren's presidency at anti-slavery protesters. So a lot of things that don't make sense or look pretty weird. Obvious spelling mistakes, like the one you're showing without, counselor, not spelled correctly.
That is quite a Van Buren hallucination. This is one of those stories that kind of does make me sick, because this is a resource that so many teachers rely on. It is a great resource here. But after reporting this story, what do you think teachers need to be looking for before they, I don't know, check out and actually buy these or take them into their classrooms?
Yeah, I mean, teachers need to look over their classroom resources, even the ones they're getting from their school districts, really closely to see if there are any errors. Some of the errors may not even be obvious until you look at things very closely. Policymakers are all over the map when they say, should teachers be using AI to help them create some of the resources that they need? The average school year is 180 days. That's a lot of lesson plans to create and think about, and teachers don't necessarily get all the resources that they need from their schools, so they turn to places like TPT for resources.
And TPT, I mean, the kind of open source Etsy of it all, that was one of the beauties behind it. But do we know who's behind this? Because whoever it is, look, I would suspect that they are not teachers in the classroom. I would suspect that it might be just somebody making a buck. But again, we don't know. But can you change that because of this sort of open source platform that they have?
Yeah, I mean, in their platform, anybody can join. And the folks who I reached out to who had clearly AI generated resources, and one of them admitted to it, they were not classroom teachers at the time. One said that she had been a classroom teacher. It could really be anyone.
Lily, really appreciate your shedding light on this. And again, just another reminder of the resources that teachers need to do the most important job on planet Earth. Lily, thank you so very much. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. All right. Perfect. Hey, we got out on time. Lisa, did you see that? 5:50, 9:59. Okay, was I stressing out the control room today? Are we good? Okay, all right, good. Guys, thank you so very much. Communism versus, Jay, that is some deep stuff. Actual intelligence, me too. AI is great, except for when it comes to accurate images, especially in science. Campbell Corn, very good to know. Nice timing. Gregorus, let's play a game tomorrow, because I got to get home. See you guys. Bye, 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 bye. Melee! Bye.